Alright, hello everyone. So, it's been a while since I did a video, but had the day off from work because I live in the state of Michigan, which is currently closed due to inclement weather. So I decided I would do another video. So for this video, I'm going to talk about 4 different ways you can utilize motion on offense. So just to make sure the definitions are clear, motion is when you send a player in some sort of movement before the snap. In American football, there is one player who can be moving before the snap as long as he is not moving forwards. All right, and that is considered a motion. There are 4 common ways that people utilize motion. There might be more, but for this video, I'm just going to hit on 4 of them. The first one we'll go over is coverage, to help determine what coverage the defense is using. The second is using motion to set up an edge in the running game in terms of blocking numbers. The third is to create a mismatch in the passing game. And then the fourth is to start a play, or using motion to get a play going. So the first one is coverage. Actually, before I get into that, so this is a whiteboard that you're seeing on the screen. I saw this really cool effect on my photo booth app on my MacBook, and I think it gives a nice chalkboard look to it, so I think I'll stick to that. Plus, I like darker images. It's a bit easier on the eyes, I think. So using motion to determine pass coverage. When teams are doing that, they're sending a player in motion in hopes that the defense is going to respond a certain way that will help give away their coverage. Typically, most defenses are in zone coverage or man coverage. Man-to-man or man coverage is when defenders in coverage are covering a receiver. Zone coverage is when defenders are covering a zone on the field. Knowing what types of coverage a defense is using can help an offense determine who might be open on a passing play, or as a way to come back to later to find different mismatches based on that coverage the defense is using. So to use motion in the passing game, let's say you want to, typically what a lot of people do, especially with this formation, the classic double twins or spread formation, is they'll send one of the slot receivers in motion. So let's say we send this slot receiver in motion from left to right. Very common motion, staple of the run and shoot offense. The defense has to do something to account for this, because when the offense sends a player in motion over here, there are now 3 receivers on this side, and there's now 1 player on the other side, while the defense is mirrored. So the defense has to decide how are we going to cover the trip side, and how are we going to utilize the extra defenders we have on the backside. Again, if it's zone or man coverage, that's going to make a difference. If it's a man coverage, typically players are going to run with the receivers. So if it's man coverage, this player is assigned to here, and he'll just run over with them. So in man coverage motion, this is what you would typically see. And that's how the offense can tell if it's helps the offense determine if it's man coverage. If it were to be something like a zone coverage, it might look something like this. So you got the motion, and then maybe this safety will roll down, and this safety will roll back. Or it could be as simple as simply shifting the linebackers over. So let's say maybe this linebacker shifts out, shifts in the middle, and then they shift back to 2 high. So then that would end up looking like, after the motion is done, something like this. Now, of course, that's not always a dead giveaway that it is man or zone. Defenses who are really good at disguising coverage can rotate or move defenders in various ways to help hide it, or so the offense can't tell. One such way you can do that, so let's say you want to run man coverage, but you want it to look like zone. What defenses will do is, as this guy's going in motion, rather than this player falling across, they'll slide over. So it might be something like this. This player slides over, this person slides in the middle, and so on. Therefore, the formation of the defense hasn't really changed. The defense still keeps a 4-2 box. They still have every player in coverage over all the receivers, but it's not always a dead giveaway if it's man or zone. But again, most of the times, especially when you're playing amateur level teams, disguising the coverage isn't as easy or as practiced or as repped as often as in college or the pros. So that's one way you can utilize motion in your offense, again, to determine if it's man or zone coverage. The next way to determine man or zone coverage, or the next way to use motion, is to gain a blocking edge. I'm going to use one of my favorite examples we used when I was coaching high school a few years ago. Our favorite running play, it was not our base play, but our most successful running play was the outside zone play. And we like to run it out of a single back formation under center. So I'll draw that up quickly. So it's basically a trips formation to the left, going to the right. We always kept our tight end to the right 90% of the time, just a way to keep things simple on our offense. I can't remember the exact front the defense was using, but I remember it was a type of 7 or 8 man box that really rotated heavily towards the trips. So let's say we'll draw up against like a 5-2 or a 3-4. We noticed that this is how the defense was playing over us. So they have that free safety in the middle. On this side of the field, they have one defensive back, and over here they have 2 defensive backs, and then this linebacker would cover the third receiver here. We noticed, though, they don't want to move with motion. So what we were doing is we motioned our fullback here, or our H-back, across the formation to here. And we noticed the defenders, the safety might move over slightly, but otherwise nobody else would move. That gave us a numbers advantage. So now we'd end up with this. And now we only have one defensive back on this side of the center. This free safety is deep, but in the immediate ground game, the safety won't be a factor. And then we just run our outside zone. So we reach. This H-back would kind of help chip this defensive end and then be on the corner. Reach, climb, and so on. And then we got a lot of yards off that using advantage of motion like that. So that's, again, using motion to gain advantage with blocking numbers in the running game. We would also do it the other way around, where we saw teams that would do that. They would try and overload our strong side. So we do something like this from an offset eye set. And they would do this. Because there's more running strength over here, they would roll up a safety and play kind of what's called like a monster front. And again, if they're not, what you want to do is use the motion to see if they're going to react or if they're going to account for any other overload you add. So what we would do the same way is we'd run outside zone the other way by putting the H-back in motion this way, which after the motion would look like this. And sometimes the defense doesn't react. And now we have outside zone going the other way, where it's just easy reach blocks for everyone. We're stepping hard play side, but everyone in the box is right over us. So it was easy money for us to run. So again, that's another way you can use motion, is to again gain a numbers advantage in the running game. Now, if anyone's been following the NFL playoffs, the New England Patriots in the AFC Championship game made a great utilization of motion to gain mismatches in the passing game. So the Patriots' offense in the AFC Championship game resembled something of a Packers of the 90s or 49ers of the 80s West Coast offense. Lots of two-back formations and heavy use of the fullback in the running game. And here was the genius behind it. Because the Patriots were in a base personnel like this forced the Chiefs to stay in a base personnel as well. So basically they were in their basic 3-4 a lot. Now I can't remember the tailback's name. I don't follow the NFL that closely. But the Patriots would motion their tailback out of the backfield. So the Chiefs used a lot of cover 2 man. So the 2 safeties were deep. Everyone else was in man coverage. And what would happen is, based on this setup, a linebacker would end up covering their tailback here. Would end up covering the tailback. So then what they would do is this tailback, again, I can't remember the name, but he was faster than all the other backs. He was faster than all the linebackers for sure. He certainly had a lot of speed. And there were times where, actually I'm going to use a Twins example. So let's say they did something like this. Now, of course, this tight end is Gronkowski. And he's a huge passing threat. The Chiefs can't afford to let a defensive back go to cover another receiver because they want a defensive back on Gronk. So what this back would do is they would motion him out way out here, and now you'd have something like this. You'd have a big inside linebacker running with him, and now you have your tailback, who for some teams might be the fastest player on your offense, against an inside linebacker or an outside linebacker. Or an outside linebacker out on the perimeter, where now you can run go routes, curl routes, all sorts of stuff that the linebacker, while maybe being able to recognize the route, can't physically respond quick enough to make the cover the pass. So again, you can motion players around to get mismatches. And it's also based on as well as if the defense is subbing or not and things like that. And then to start a play, this is the most simple one. This one isn't so much looking for an edge against the defense. It's all about starting the play and hitting the defense quickly. So I'll use two common examples. One's the tail motion of the option of the veer or the flexbone option offense. And then the other is, of course, what's very popular now is the jet action. So in the veer flexbone offense, they would do what's called a two-step motion before every play, because what they wanted to do was get their slot backs in a position back here towards the fullback to kind of simulate the old wishbone formation, because this offense came from the wishbone. It was something like this. And then as they modernized it, particularly at Air Force, who is known for patenting the flexbone formation in this offense, in the wishbone offense, would do. So now by motioning him back, by this slot back, one, gets you that wishbone alignment that you want, so this back can run the pitch track on option plays. But also, by starting the motion right before the play starts, it doesn't allow the defense time to adjust. So maybe a defense could say something like, if this player motions across, we're all going to rotate down. However, this motion, that's called a tail motion, but they would teach it as like a two-step motion. So the back's only taking 2 steps before the play starts. So after 2 steps, the play is started and the defense has no time to react. So if there's any sort of flow or heavy, numbers heading this way, the defense can't react to it. And then, of course, the other one is jet motion. I'll start from out here, even though you can start from a slot position too. So jet motion, another type is rocket motion or orbit motion, something like that. You've probably heard all these terms. A jet motion is going across the back of the quarterback, or if it's in shotgun in front of the quarterback. And then orbit or rocket would look something like this. But these are ways to set up plays too. Typically, you could send a player like that in a motion similar to that to get him the ball. So what you have now is by setting a motion right before the play and snapping the football before he gets to the quarterback can simply turn around and hand the ball off. And now you have your player, potentially your fastest player, going full speed right when the play starts. By the time he has the football and is exchanged and the defense can figure out what's going on, he's already out here in the alley. And that also can intimidate defenses too, because it's a very aggressive motion if the player's moving at full speed, which can get defenses to bite hard, thinking it's going that way. And then they do something like this, like a counter play or a zone play with the back cutting back this way. Or you can boot. So, fake the handoff and then boot out. So that motion is also used not only to start the play for the offense, but to get the defense to overreact at the start of the play. So those are 4 ways to use motion. If you have any other recommendations or types of videos you want to see explaining certain aspects of offense or defense, please comment below. Thank you for listening and hope you enjoyed.